بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا، وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا، إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. وعليكم السلام to everyone who gave the salam. Sister Fatima, Brother Muhammad, Sister Fatima Muhammad, Fatima Burke, Selina Isla, Kai Shahid, Barakallahu Bikum, Sufyan. May Allah reward all of you. Stanley, Baron, Levan. Let us make dua for our brother Levan and his people there in Kansas. They are trying to do a da'wah to call to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. May Allah assist them. Bijah Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and by the secrets of Al-Fatiha. May Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala open for you and your community and the brothers there to give you tawfiq and give you success. And I remind you and all of those with you of the saying of the Prophet salawatullahi wassalamu alayhi to Sayyidina Ali wa Sayyidina al-Mu'adh bin Jabal radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, that he told them, if Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala guides by you one person, it is better than the red camel. So don't count your numbers. Count the fact that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala may guide by what your da'wah, by your calling, by your inviting one person. Subhanallah. That is a good thing. But just keep a noble intention to be a means of guiding people to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Allah. Allah. So the scholars, they say, in repeating, there is a benefit. Fil i'ada ifada. So just to quickly review, we talked about al-hadith al-jariya, or hadith al-jariya, the hadith of the slave girl, which is a hadith that al-mujassim al-mushabbiha, those who liken Allah to the creation and attribute Allah with attributes of a body in our time, they use this as one of their primary evidences that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is above the throne. And this is incorrect. And we mentioned that this hadith is not a proof for such a claim. And the scholars of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, they had multiple ways of approaching this hadith. Among those of the scholars of al-hadith, such as al-Imam al-Bayhaqi, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, al-Hafiz al-Bayhaqi, he mentioned that this hadith, or the portion of the story of the slave girl, is not confirmed. As some scholars, they said that it is weak. And the terminology that they use in the hadith, oh my God, man, subhanAllah, messed that up. Let me spell right now. Al-idtirab means, in the science of hadith, that this hadith has different narrations which are of equal authenticity, and they cannot be reconciled or joined together. And they said that this is a sign of weakness. So some of them said, because of this, the hadith cannot be used as a proof. Other scholars, they mention that the hadith is authentic, and this hadith should be dealt with like other attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in terms of two types of interpretation. One is to leave the meaning to Allah while affirming the attribute and Allah's divine transcendence above created things. And the other way was to give a specific figurative interpretation. Who mentioned this case? Among the scholars. Who among the scholars mentioned that? That this is from among the hadith related to the attributes of Allah, and there are two approaches towards understanding this hadith. Imam An-Nawawi, in which book? In which book? Sharh Sahih Muslim. Where in Sharh Sahih Muslim? Sahih Muslim is 14 volumes. It's good. Yo, just go find it in Sahih Muslim. MashaAllah. Okay. And Kitabul Masajid, and the unlawfulness of speaking in prayer. Good. MashaAllah. Get used to this mode of knowing the locations of statements, hadith, and all of that. So maybe one day we'll have some classes in hadith. And first starting off learning about the books of hadith, learning how they're arranged, learning how to navigate them, right? It's very important. Tayyib. So those two approaches that Imam An-Nawawi mentioned, those two approaches. Those are the approaches of who among the Muslim nation? The first approach and the second approach. They are the madhabs of who among the Muslim nation? Because he said there are two madhabs related to these. Madhabs of who? So everyone's putting as Salaf. That's one. So it's all the madhab of the Salaf. So Isa is correct. One for the brothers, right? First approach is approach of the majority of the Salaf. And the second approach is the approach of the majority of Al-Khalaf. True. Correct. Right? So the first approach that Imam An-Nawawi mentioned, first madhab, is the madhab of majority of Salaf. I know, questions never clear when you get it wrong. I know. I understand. And the second madhab, which is the madhab of the majority of Al-Khalaf. Tayyib, good. The madhab of the majority of As-Salaf. Why do we say the majority of As-Salaf? Why didn't we just say As-Salaf? Have the madhab As-Salaf. Why do we say that is the madhab of the majority of the Salaf? No answers? Oh, come on, Isa. Come better than that one. Some differed. What do you mean, Habib? Islam Muhammad is right. Okay. She said majority because some of Salaf use a ta'wil when refuting those misguided ones. Yes, some of them use a ta'wil and explaining some of the Salaf. True. And likewise is the case with Al-Khalaf, because some of Al-Khalaf, they didn't use a ta'wil. They stuck to a tafweed despite the presence of misguided people. They still just left the meaning to Allah. Now, both madhabs is a form of a ta'wil, both of them. Both the madhab of as-salaf and the madhab of al-khalaf, both of them are a form of ta'wil. What is the difference? And why do I say that? So what is the difference? If you're saying both of them, whether it's the madhab of as-salaf in terms of at-tafweed or the madhab of al-khalaf, both madhaban, both of those two schools are a form of ta'wil, right? Why and how? No answers? You need to master these things. I'm giving you principles by which, whenever you're confronted with these issues, this issue or other issues, you know how to move, you know how to work it. Isa coming through. Give him the ball. He's on fire. Tafweed is a brief interpretation. Ta'wil is a detailed interpretation. They both do not use the apparent meaning. So the next question, Isla already answered, which is, so what's the difference? What are they called, rather? So what Isa said, the brief interpretation at Ta'wil, one is ijmali, it's brief. And the other is tafsili, it's detailed, right? So explain, what is a brief interpretation? Ijmali, at-ta'wil al-ijmali. So let me put them. So what Islam mentioned, you have at-ta'wil al-ijmali, right? You can make it so you pronounce it right. And at-ta'wil tafsili, right? 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 So what is meant by a ta'wil al-ijmali? Why is it called ta'wil? Why are you calling a tafweed a ta'wil ijmali? Good. A ta'wil ijmali, meaning a tafweed, is a brief interpretation, does not specify a meaning. What do? You say that the apparent meaning is definitely not the intended meaning, right? But you stop there and you say it has a befitting meaning, which is known to Allah, without specifying a specific meaning among the meanings that relate to that word. Even the befitting meanings, you don't specify a befitting meaning. Is this clear for everyone? The fact that you don't use the literal apparent meaning is a form of ta'wil, even if you don't specify a meaning. Is this clear? This is very important. If you get this, the rest of these matters are so easy. Now all we're doing is learning the matters, but you understand them before you even learn them. This is extremely important. And that's why I'm reviewing it and making sure you understand it. And train your brain, inshallah, train your mind to think like that. And you already have a precedence, Imam Nawawi, and I'm going to show you many more. But if you got the concept, and all I'm going to do from here is just keep showing you scholar after scholar after scholar and book after book after book among our great scholars who employed this concept. Everybody with me? Okay. So this is related to the slave girl. So I want to give you some points. Right? When we say Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, when they do a tafweed and Al-Wahhabiyya, who call themselves Salafiyya, they too tafweed. What is the difference? Because both of them say they employ a tafweed. So the Ash'ari, Maturidi, Nahnu, Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, we believe that we make a tafweed. Al-Wahhabiyya, Salafiyya, they say they make a tafweed. What is the difference? Hmm? What's the difference? Good. Malika. Wahhabiyya say we don't do tafweed of the meaning, we do tafweed of the kayfiyya. Is that what you mean? While believing in the literal meaning. So everyone's off the mark except Sufyan and Malika. But y'all need to clear it up. Y'all on point, but I want to make sure you take your time, type it in a way where it's clear. So y'all see the point here, but it's don't rush, take your time. Type it where it's clear. Maybe one day we'll have another way to do this. I want to have you strong in this. So someone catch on. Come on, Isa, Isla. Y'all not the only ones in the class. Where are all these people? Why y'all don't answer? There's a bunch of people here. Come on. More than 3 or 4 people. Everyone get involved. Inshallah. One of the best ways to know that you understand is to express your understanding. Okay. So here, Isla said the same thing that Malika said, but what is the tafweed here? What is the difference in a tafweed? What is the difference? And use the word a tafweed of what? And the difference. Okay, go ahead. Wahhabiyya, so Wahhabiyya say we don't do tafweed of the meaning. We do tafweed of the kayfiyya while believing in the literal meaning. Okay, good. What does Ahl Sunnah say? Okay, that's the Wahhabiyya. What does Ahl Sunnah say? Mm, you're all close. I'm just trying to, because I told you, but I need to get from you that you're understanding. So you're right. That's the Wahhabiyya. That's what they say. We don't do tafweed of the meaning. We confirm the literal meaning. That's what they say. We do tafweed of the kayfiyya, which is the how, right? And this is likening Allah to creation, and it contradicts the majority of Ahl Sunnah. That's true. What does Ahl Sunnah say different from that? What do they do tafweed of? We know they say bila kayf, but you still didn't tell me about tafweed. What do Ahl Sunnah say about tafweed that's different from the Wahhabiyya? Okay, put it in a sentence. Y'all saying the same thing. Bila kayfiyya. There is no how. Now relate that to a tafweed. Put it in a sentence where it all makes sense, so I can understand what Ahl Sunnah says, not half the answer, because both of your statements says nothing about tafweed. Y'all follow what I'm saying? Use the word tafweed. What is the tafweed of? You already know what a tafweed means, right? Leaving the meaning to Allah or leaving it to Allah. Okay, Atika, good. Let's see. Al-Wahhabiyya believe in tafweed al-kayfiyya. La, leaving the meaning to Allah while believing in the literal meaning. So the Wahhabiyya, that was stated wrong. Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we believe and affirm the words of Allah, but what they mean, we don't discuss it and leave it to Allah, and do not discuss the meaning. Bila kayf, there is no how when thinking. Okay, good. All right. I'll give you one more. You're all right around and just want the expression. The meaning is there. I know you have it in your mind, but the way you're expressing it, we want to work on that. I know you have the idea. I can see from what you're saying that you have the idea, but you're not expressing it clearly. So that's what I'm trying to get from you. I want you to understand this concept of a tafweed and the difference between Ahl Sunnah and Al-Wahhabiyya. You're on point, but I'm trying to get you to what is in your mind. I told you, now I need you to get it out. We got 2 more minutes, and then I'll tell you again, and then I want you to write it down. It's hard to piece the pieces together. That's why you have to review, because a lot of these concepts are new to you. And then you're mixing with what you hear and you're trying to put it all together. That's why you got to review. And that's why we got to question and make sure, because if we don't review and we don't question, you're going to go and you're going to speak and it's going to be unclear. You're going to miss the point. Even though in your mind you got it, but you can't express. So expression is important. All right. So here's what it is. Let me help you. Y'all ready? All right, Samira. Let's see what the Pittsburgh people are doing. Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah apply tafweed of the meaning by affirming what Allah said and leaving the meaning to Allah without giving it a how, while clearing Allah from resemblance of the creation. So they do tafweed of the meaning. And okay. Me, I love Pittsburgh people too. Right? Good. All right, I'm going to put this how I want you to say it. So somebody type, a few of y'all type. Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. They confirm the words that are narrated in the Quran and Hadith as attributes of Allah. They confirm them, right? They do tafweed of the meaning and they negate the kayfiyah. Y'all got it? Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. They confirm the words that have come in the Quran and the Sunnah as attributes of Allah. They do tafweed of the meaning and they negate the kayfiyah, the how. Is that clear? Put that up. I'll repeat it again. Ahl Sunnah, who are the Ash'aris and Maturidis, we discussed that. They confirm the words that are narrated in the Quran and the Hadith. They do tafweed of the meaning and they negate the kayfiyah. Right? And when they do tafweed of the meaning, they do that because laysa kamithlihi shay. No thing resembles Allah. Right? Everyone put that up so we make sure you got it. Everyone just copy, make sure you all got it. Kia, you are cooking and listening. Okay. MashaAllah. In the real class, there is no cooking. Allah. Good. That's Ahl Sunnah, right? Who are Ahl Sunnah? Quickly. Who are Ahl Sunnah? Give me one. Okay. Ahl Sunnah are the Ash'ari Maturidiyya. So we know Ahl Sunnah, right? Good. No, Malika. Ahl Sunnah hum al-Ash'ira wal-Maturidiyya. Ahl Sunnah hum al-Ash'ira wal-Maturidiyya. Ahl Sunnah are the Ash'aris and the Maturidis. The meaning of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah are the people of the prophetic way in the majority. But who are they? Hum al-Ash'ira wal-Maturidiyya. Fil Aqidah, of course. Right. So we got Ahl Sunnah. That's clear. Al-Wahhabiyya, who call themselves Salafiyya, they say we affirm what is narrated in the Quran and Sunnah. We confirm the words that relate to the attributes in the Quran and Sunnah. We confirm them. We believe in the literal meaning of those words, and we do tafweed of the kayfiyah. That's what they say. And at the end of that, they say, Laysa kamithlihi shay. Yeah, I put that up to you? Did y'all put it? So the Wahhabiyya, so-called Salafiyya, they say we confirm or we affirm the words that come in the Quran and Sunnah, right? Related to Allah's attributes. We believe in their literal meaning. And we do tafweed of al-kayfiyya, or the how, right? And then they say, Laysa kamithlihi shay. No thing resembles Allah. This is important, right? So what do the Wahhabiyya say? Just like Ahl Sunnah, they say we confirm the words related to the attributes that come in the Quran and Sunnah. How do they differ from Ahl Sunnah? They say we believe in the literal meaning of those words, and we do tafweed of al-kayfiyya, the how, and nothing resembles Allah. Is that clear? All right, let me see what you got, Malika, here. Wahhabi say we affirm what is and confirm the words of the attributes in the Quran and Sunnah, but we believe in the literal meaning and we do tafweed of the kayfiyya and say no thing resembles Allah. Okay, good. Don't worry about who the first ones to say that, Shabazz. Get the meaning. Barakallahu bikum. You got to get the concept first. If I start giving names and all that, you're going to be finished, right? Just get the concept. Wahhabiyya say we affirm the words that come in the Quran and Sunnah related to Allah Ta'ala's attributes. We believe in the literal meaning and we do a tafweed of the kayfiyya. That's it. Everyone got that? And then you can add at the end using Surah 24:11, Laysa kamithlihi shay. Let me see, Sufyan al-Wahhabiyya. They say we confirm the words of the Quran and Hadith related to Allah's attributes. They believe in the literal meaning, and they do tafweed of the kayfiyya, the how. Then they say, Laysa kamithlihi shay. Okay, good. Right? So here is the concept. I know, Isa, I'm watching you. Now, listen. You are not alone. I am there with you. Though we're far apart, I'm always in your heart. Oh my goodness. I can't help myself. Subhanallah. Okay, right. So this is important to understand. Why is it important to understand? So you understand the difference. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Everyone got that? It's what I said with Ahl Sunnah, Al Asha'ira, Wal Maturidiyya. When we say Ahl Sunnah now, I told you before, we always say Hum Al Asha'ira Wal Maturidiyya. They are the Asharis and the Maturidis. Who said that among the great scholars of Islam? Who said that Ahl Sunnah are the Asharis and Maturidis? Who said that? What great scholars said that? This is going to be one of the most intense cookouts you've ever seen. Imam al-Haddad. Who else? What the heck? Oh, that's some... I had the slightest idea what you're talking about. It came with Julius, whatever you type, came up all backwards. Muhammad Murtada al-Zabiri, Imam al-Ghazali, Imam al-Haddad. Okay. Imam al-Tahawi didn't say that. Good. Okay. Tell you. All right, we get ready to come to a close. So if I ask you, why do Ahl Sunnah, yani al-Asha'ira wal-Maturidi, consider the methodology of the Wahhabi and the Salafi as liking Allah to the creation and giving him bodily attributes, at-tashbih wa tajsim? Why do they say that? So we understood both approaches. Why do the Asha'ira say this is tashbih and tajsim? This is liking Allah to the creation. This is resembling Allah to the creation, giving Allah bodily attributes. Why do they say that? Because the Wahhabiyya, they said, Laysa kamithlihi shay, Allah does not resemble anything in the creation. And then the Asha'ira and Maturidi saying, yes, you saying that, but you liken Allah to the creation. Why are they saying that? If we get this right, we will help save hundreds of thousands of Muslims, millions, depending how hard we work, from bad belief. If we learn this lesson well. No, Shabazz, they don't say how. That's not true. Wahhabis don't say how. That's not true. So by you saying that, you haven't fully understood. You didn't understand. They never said a how for Allah. That's not true. So think about it. Okay, you said because Wahhabis give Allah's sifat meanings that are specific to creation. How? Because they said he doesn't resemble the creation. So how can you say that? Abdurrahman, they say he doesn't resemble the creation. It's clear. They said, Allah said, Laysa kamithlihi shay. No thing resembles him. So how are you saying they give meanings that are specific to the creation? How can you say that? What do you mean? Clarify yourself. To say we don't know how is liking Allah to His creation. Because the how comes from human imagination, which is a created event. That's what it leads to. Okay, it leads to that. But you got to give more clear, because they say we don't imagine Allah. So they say no. How for us? Not an imagination. We don't imagine Allah. So how do you explain? Because you're going to get them to understand what you're saying. So if you say, is your imagination? They say, no, we cannot imagine Allah. That's why we don't know the how. So you have to clarify this issue. I'm trying to show you what you're going to be dealing with when you're talking to these people who you know you have the correct belief, but this is what they're telling you. So you have to understand it well. So they affirm the Zahir, which is the little meaning, whereby a hand, a shin, a face, and eyes, movement, direction, place are matters of the creation, not the creator. Okay. Bingo. That's what I wanted. That's the idea. When you say a kayfiyah entails itself, form, shape, lengths, depths, because it's literal, as you're saying. Even if you don't know the kayfiyah itself necessitates non-befitting attributes, as Islam mentioned. As Atika is mentioned, when you say a kayfiyah, it all entails, even if you don't know it, non-befitting attributes, because you said it's literal. So if it's literal and it is real, and you say yet is a hand, even if you don't know the how of the hand, it does, the howness itself entails non-befitting things, even if you don't know the reality of them. Does everyone understand that? Because if you say that the how is literal, then the how is its reality, its form, its shape, its length, its depth. You just don't know it. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Where Ahl Sunnah say, no, there is no how for Allah, so such things can never exist for Allah and His attributes. You see, it's a big difference. Is that clear? It's a big difference. So for instance, if I'm upstairs and my wife is in the other room, I say she's laying on the bed, but I don't know how. I don't know how. I affirm she's laying, but I don't know how. But for sure, her laying is an attribute of created things, no matter how she's doing it. Even if I don't know how, it's a form, it has a place, it has a direction, she has a length, she's located in, you follow? There's distance between other created things. That's the nature of howness, right? Even though I don't know, I cannot see through the wall. I don't know what she's doing in there. I don't know how. And that's why Ahl Sunnah say how is negated about Allah and His attributes. And if those Wahhabiyya, when they say, well, no, it's no kind of literal meaning, it negates their whole debate, their whole discussion. And they're forced to either admit that they are wrong in assigning meanings to the attributes of Allah, especially the literal meanings, or they're negating the whole premise of their doctrine. It doesn't make sense. Is this clear? Now this should be much easier for you. Now you see the difference between Ahl Sunnah and Al-Wahhabiyya and Al-Salafiyya in these issues. And this relates to all those mutashabih verses in hadith. Now I'm just going to show you this fact. I showed you in their books where they say it. And now once you understand the difference, now you're able to see why each says that. And you don't falsely attribute to them anything. So I'm not going to say the Wahhabis, they believe they liken Allah to the creation. They don't believe it. Their belief necessitates such a belief, even though they disclaim it. But what they're saying leads to that. And that's why it's negated. It seems at first view, it seems like it's not that deep. But when you understand it, it's a distinct difference between the belief of Ahl Sunnah and the belief of Al-Wahhabiyya, Al-Salafiyya, Al-Mushabbihah, Al-Mujassima in our time. A vast difference, night and day. So when people spend time talking about bid'ah and tawassul and istighatha and tabarruk, I'm like, we can forget all that. Look at that aqidah. We don't even got to talk about all that stuff. That ain't even as important as this bad belief system. That's really the issue. You know, all that other stuff we can negotiate somehow, some way. But this one is non-negotiable. We can't accept that at all. Tayyib, let us go to post-Fajr reflections. Wa sallallahu alayhi Sayyidina Muhammad. Review. You know, some people are not going to like this methodology. Oh, they don't know. You got to just tell them. Nah, I need them to know. You just tell them. You just tell them, and I'm going to make sure they understand. Some don't like this if you don't know and I got to make you think. Nah, I need you to think. We can't afford for you to walk out of the class not knowing what you're talking about, because I don't want you to use your brain. I need you to use your brain, and we need to think, and we need to analyze, and we need to really know what we're talking about, because we're going to go teach people. We're going to go tell people this is the correct belief and this is the invalid belief. We have to understand. May Allah make it easy for us. Barakallahu fikum. Wa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We'll see you in post-Fajr reflection.